Welcome to the All Out Leadership Podcast, hosted by Pastor Eric Lawson, where each episode is uniquely designed to help you live all out by bringing you practical leadership from a biblical perspective delivered in 10 minutes or less. So whether you're a business leader, serving in ministry, or simply looking to grow in your leadership, this podcast is for you. Before we dive into this week's topic, make sure to subscribe to the podcast and download the show notes at ericlawson.com/podcast. And while you're at it, feel free to share the content on social media. Now, let's join Pastor Eric for this week's conversation.
One last lesson we're going to learn from the life of David regarding when he goes out and fights Goliath's younger brother, and he's pinned to the ground, and Abashi comes to save him. There's just this great little passage that we learn some important leadership principles from. I want to read it to you. 1 Samuel 21:18-22. Now it happened afterward that there was again a battle with the Philistines of Gob, and then Shenebekah, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, killed Saph, who was one of the sons of the giant. Again, there was war at Gob with the Philistines, where Eliam killed the brother of Goliath, the Gittite, the shaft of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. Yet again, there was war at Gath, and there was a man of great stature who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he also was born to the giant. So when he defied Israel, Jonathan, the son of Shimea, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were born to the giant in Gath and fell by the hand of David and by the hands of his servants. Now, let me just say this, that here's David approaching the end of his life, and you know what? The Philistines rose up. He defeats them. Philistines rise up again. You're never going to reach a point this side of heaven where you aren't battling something. There's always spiritual battles. Don't think you're going to get to the point where, we finally got that figured out in our company. We finally got all of our systems established. No, there's going to be another problem. There's always a battle to fight in your company, in your business, for your marriage, to always continually take ground. David's greatest achievement wasn't that he killed Goliath. When we look at David, what he's most known for is, he killed Goliath. But David actually killed more giants through raising up giant killers than he did by killing Goliath. So what we see is this: David killed Goliath's whole family. Now, he only killed Goliath personally, but because he poured into and invested into these emerging leaders, he actually killed more giants through his team than he ever killed himself personally. So my question is this: what giant killers are you raising up? Your success is not just what you do. Your success is what you equip and empower your team to be able to do. If you couldn't measure your success by what you've done, and you could only measure your success by what you've inspired, equipped, and empowered others to do, how successful are you as a leader? Matthew 28 and verse 19, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you." Whether you're a pastor or you're a CEO or you're a manager, or you're a mom, or you're a dad, our job is to make disciples. Wherever God has placed you in your sphere of influence, your success is not just what you do, but how are you equipping others coming up to fully be Christ followers? Inside of your company, how are you developing people to become the best they can be inside of your organization? One of the greatest ways to keep and attract great talent is develop people. Every winner wants to be part of a team that is growing its leadership. And we've had different people join our team simply because they were in an organization where they capped out because the leadership culture was not a development culture. They weren't being invested in. They weren't being poured into. There was no strategic, systematic plan for growth, IDPs, and ongoing training sessions. And they go, man, I want to keep growing as a leader, but I'm capped out here. They see what we have systemized in time in our culture and element, and they go, I want to be part of that because I want to grow. And so we've attracted some great talent. We've retained great talent because we're a leader developing culture. So inside of your organization, you're going to attract great talent and keep great talent if you keep investing into them. Leaders always want to continually grow. Now, converts are won, but disciples are made. And so you're going to have to be very intentional in how you make fully devoted disciples, whether it's disciples, followers of Christ, or they're raving fans of your company, raving fans of your culture. you're going to have to be intentional how you develop that. Remember this, spiritual maturity isn't how much you know. Spiritual maturity is how much you can get others to know about God. And stop measuring our success by what we do. Start measuring our success by what we help others do. On another side note, when you look at the lineage and legacy of Saul, he'd never killed a giant. And there's no record of anybody in his team ever killing a giant. Why? You reproduce what you are. You teach what you know, but you reproduce what you are. So if you want to raise up giant killers, you better be killing a giant somewhere inside of your own life, because ultimately you're just going to reproduce what you are. Hopefully that was helpful. Look forward to seeing you next week at the All Out Leadership Podcast.
Thank you for joining us on the All Out Leadership Podcast. We hope you gained new biblical insight that challenged you to grow in your leadership. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, we would love your help in getting the content out farther. You can help by subscribing to the podcast at ericlawson.com/podcast and telling others about it. Next week, Pastor Eric will be back with another episode. So until then, we hope you have a great week being an all-out leader.